Squirrel Rosenberg Radio coming to you live and direct from the lab. It's a wonderful evening here on a Saturday, bro. Let me tell you, everybody who's tuning in right now, it is a classic evening tonight. We're reminiscing on a couple things, and before I even segue, you hear the music in the background? It's going to be available on our SoundCloud. I want you to check us out on Instagram, on YouTube. Everything you're watching, everything you're going to be hearing is going to be available for you to feel, see, and touch. I have some classic guests in the house tonight. I'm looking dead at you right now, all my viewers. Tonight is going to be an epic night. Stay tuned because everything is going to be muy bueno. And what would Dr. Jane say on that one?
That means very good.
Exactly. So let me just give you a quick heads up on what's going on. In the background, you're hearing a classic music from Marvin Gaye. But before I segue into that, let me just bring everything in and big up everybody that's in the house. First and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to my guest, Maria, who's blessed us with her presence.
Mi gente, mi gente.
Po, po, po. That's what that means in Jamaican. Before we segue into that, I want to give a big shout out to Manny behind the camera, my boy E, handling everything on the sound, Theo, his new name that's in the house. Thank you so much for owning Fat Joe, holding me down. I got Ellie, I got Nikki, I got Latina Liz just laying incognito, and everybody who's been on the show and exactly know who she is.
Yes,
stay
sir.
tuned. She's going to be popping up a little bit later. But as I reel everything in, guys, I want to just really focus on Dr. Jen. Thank you so much for popping in tonight.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Before I even start, I'm like, how could I forget Dr. Jen? But you know what? I'm not going to do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight to Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, Squirrel Rosenberg TV. As I said, tonight's going to be an epic night. We are trying out some new programs and some new formats with our show. But let me just marinate on what's happening tonight. Maria, thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Dr. Jen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm trying to marinate on that because here's what's so funny. I'm going to be short on this. I was in Manhattan the other day and I went to the Kimberly Hotel. Big shout out to the Kimberly. And I went into the elevator and this guy who works in the hotel walked in with some guests. And I heard him say to the lady that was in the elevator, "How are you?" And she goes, "I'm fine." And he goes, "Is that a promise?" I was like, whoa, whoa, son. Reel that back a little bit. And he said it with so much authenticity. He's like, "Is that a promise?" And she goes, "Yes, it is." And he said then, "Would you tell me if it wasn't okay?" Which meant this guy genuinely asked this lady, "How are you doing?" How many times have you gone out and
I
said,
tell you that's really interesting in New York, right?
Oh,
because you go somewhere
big.
else, that's huge, you know.
Yeah.
You go anywhere around the world, and people really care. I tell you, you know.
With the exception of.
Well, I'll tell you this, you know, when I was in Ghana, we lived in Ghana for a few months, and I had to get adjusted to pausing to answer that, right? Well, like,
because people were genuinely asking.
They were genuinely asking. They were like, "Well, who to send?" Is like, you know, "How are you?" And you know, in our culture, we rush that response because that's just a formality. It's just like, okay, let's keep it moving.
That was so well said.
You know,
That was so well said.
But it's not something meaningful. So it's refreshing to hear that, especially in New York City, USA, during the culture that we have, you know, in 2020, you know, that I have to say that somebody really genuinely took the time to say, "I really care and I really want to know how are you."
That was fascinating.
Yeah.
I think I have my marketing cap on because I was thinking, wow, what a great way to get clients.
straight capitalist.
Like,
no, I respect
it's like,
that.
wow,
No,
okay.
because guess what?
I'm gonna
I
use
would
that.
know.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? Honestly, I would now go back to that hotel because of that response.
Yeah.
So here's how I flipped it. I took a Rosenberg moment right away. I just jumped on it. So I'm waiting in the elevator, waiting for the opportunity to say something to this guy. So
You were itching.
Oh no, he made an impression on you, boy. Right? And I'm going to be trying to be short because we got to hit a couple major topics here. But so the lady, we stopped on her floor. He walks out, lets her out, then he gets back on the elevator. There's two young ladies that he initially walked on with. So now in the elevator, it's him, two young ladies, and I. He walks into the elevator, he turns to me, he said, "And how are you doing, sir?" I was like, home run. He just set me up. He just gave me the alley-oop. I said, "Not only am I doing excellent, but I'm impressed with the way you spoke to that lady.
Yes.
You made an impression on me. The fact that you asked, I didn't care who else was in that elevator. I let him know the impact he made on me."
Right.
I thought I hit this guy at the park. He said to me, "You made my weekend and it's only Thursday." I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, he's smooth with it.
Yeah,
You can
just
get it.
go-
I'm like,
yeah,
all right,
no.
you can get it.
No, I'm Jamaican, straight up. The only thing I get is a little bit of organic sense, what's up, but I hear what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but I'm trying to be detailed here because the fact that I took time out to compliment him, his answer to me, and when I thought that was the crescendo or the top of the impression on me, he says that we walk out the elevator, he shakes my hand, and the ladies that were in the bed came back and shook his hand. He kissed their hand. When have you seen that?
So that speaks to the organic, culture that he
Was brought up in.
Well, not only that, the integrity that he has to maintain that. Because it's really easy to grow up with those manners, but then, your society will shift that. But for him to have enough integrity to maintain that, it's really powerful that, beyond, he could have been, a dude just looking for a job.
True.
Or he could have been, multi-billionaire,
True,
but
true.
he kept that integrity to really genuinely care for the other person.
Yeah, that made such an impact on me. And I guess because before this experience, I've always said to myself, and I've asked people this, how are you doing? And they're like, are you just telling me that because? I play with it a little bit just to hear some reaction. But this guy genuinely did that. And I want to give a big shout out to the maitre d' at the Kimberly Hotel who ran that elevator. Yo, I'm telling you. And what's so funny, if you're open, back to Maddie. We had a guest here, and I'm zigzagging all over the place. Let me stay focused.
Maddie.
We have Maddie. And Maddie said you need to have an open heart. And when you have an open heart, you're going to have these experiences because you're receptive. And I really appreciate you for being on point, Maria, seriously, because you're so aware, you're able to deduce what's going on in that.
Yeah.
And Dr. Jen, you brought up the fact that, hey, that's a great way to get clients. However, no disrespect, but here's what's funny. The fact that this person, part of the society, did that genuinely now made an impact on me. So I'll go back to that resort. So it kind of works hand in hand.
Right.
But if it wasn't organic, it wouldn't be official. So let me just segue in a little bit in a couple of things. So you guys know, let me drop some facts on you. April the 2nd, which is tomorrow, is going to be Marvin Gaye's birthday. Can we give a big shout out to Marvin? Related birthday.
Happy
to Marvin
birthday.
Gaye. Bong, bong, bong. He was
Respect.
just playing some of that classic in the back. The interesting thing about today is he died April 1st, 1984. So in the same breath, we want to go R.I.P. to my boy Marvin Gaye because he made an impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what were some of the songs? Let me start with Dr. Jen. What are some of the songs that were really in your fore mind or back mind?
I mean, all his classics.
You
But
were
I do
asking-
remember that day because my mom was a big Motown. She loved Marvin Gaye. She followed him.
Oh, wow.
So I remember that day. I was young. And she was sad. Both her and
Yeah,
my dad
I
were
kind of
sad.
slightly remember that day. How about you?
I just have to say that, Marvin left such an impression, for even generations to come. Like, he was such a legend, with Bootsy Collins, to me, is one of my favorites. And it's like,
yeah, you're
taking
taking
it back. But Bootsy Collins and the Funkadelics and,
Yeah.
even, and Jen could attest to this because we were at SOBs quite a few times.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shout out
Taking
to
it back to
SOBs.
SOBs.
Yeah, big
Shout out to SOBs because, and then we were really open, first as, I'm going to say, I know Jen's history, she too has immigrant families and I'm Dominican and coming in and then getting adapted to this new demonstration of love because that is what Marvin was. He was
he
a
represented
demonstration
love, yeah.
Yes,
of
he
love
was.
and that lacks so much, that even still, I believe that the representation of love that we have today, is the root of it comes from, Marvin and, Bootsy and Al Green, and so I definitely think that, we have to go back to that.
True,
And then,
true.
the newcomers, they've got to go back to, our history
Yeah,
and just
true,
say,
true. Classic.
this.
What's so funny as you were talking, and I want to, just hear from both of you. And while I prep this, I want you to think about it. The songs, Marvin Gaye songs that made an impact on you. And one of the songs that I'm going to go first, right, is, of course, we spoke about it off camera before, was What's Going On, right? And this is the song where he spoke about everything that's going on in the world, the mercury in the fish, just the degradation of society across the border, everything. And that was so fascinating. You were looking up a record with Ellie behind the scenes. What record was that?
With him and Diana Ross with "You Are My Everything."
Oh, what a classic record!
Love song,
Yeah.
pure love
Yeah,
song,
that was
and
like-
their love was just. They were in love. You know when people love each other, but you see someone in love, they were in love.
Did you date Diana Ross back in the day?
Yes, they did.
No way.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know
That was
that.
old Chincha.
Dude, I'm in
Yeah. Yes.
Wow, that was big.
Yes, yes.
For you, Maria, what was a classic? And if it was the same record I chose, say so. 'Cause, but what was a classic Marvin Gaye record?
I have
that
to
made an
tell
impact?
you, all of it from, You Are My Everything, but what's going on, I have to say, is his most socialist.
That kind of transcends time also. You don't think? Because it's still applicable today.
Absolutely. Especially, America today. America 2020. We're not even in 2017. We're 2020 America.
Yeah,
we're
true.
like a new century.
Yeah.
It's about to, come and turn the corner, which is really, really, we have to prepare for that. And consciousness has to be, very, very, woken. Because like Jen was saying, she started with the whole Trump thing, and I don't want to deviate to that,
No, we're going to touch that topic. That's what we do on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio.
We're going to do that.
We're going to touch that.
like I
We're
told-
going to touch that
We're gonna
topic.
touch that.
But listen, like I told Jen, Trump don't got nothing to do with Trump.
Yo, Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. My guest just dropped a jewel. Say that again.
Trump doesn't have any, it's not Trump's fault.
Beautiful. No, you said Trump has nothing to do with Trump.
That's it.
And what we're going to do is we're going to dive into that a little bit later when we touch on the politics end of
But
the
let's
show.
go back to the love
But
part.
let's
'cause
go
I
back
don't
to the
wanna,
love.
go back
Please.
to the-
Let's go
Let's
back
stay
to
in
the
love. Let's stay in
Yeah,
love.
So
that
let's
was
go back to the
like-
love.
Let's not ruin
Talk
it.
to me on that. Talk to me on
With
that.
Trump.
Yes.
So the Marvin Gaye record that you would associate or made a biggest impact on your life or that you resonated with would be
I would have to say What's Going On.
What's Going On.
Yeah.
Bong. So we're going to move on a couple of things because what we're going to segue into right now, my boy Raekwon just dropped a record with Marvin.
Yes,
a
yes.
tribute to Marvin Gaye featuring CeeLo Green.
The chef does it again.
Yes.
Yeah, Raekwon the chef. And I'm going to tell you, this, as a matter of fact, without even segueing or taking a promo swag of this, but I just dropped a Wu-Tang mix on the SoundCloud and Squirrel Rosenberg Radio SoundCloud. You need to tune into that.
Official.
Right now, this Marvin Gaye tribute by Raekwon the chef and CeeLo Green is official. We're playing that in the background right now. Tune into our SoundCloud. You can get some of that love a little bit later. But as I get ready to wrap up the funny topics that's happening around our world today, I just want to remind everybody, please tune into our Facebook, Instagram, or social media platforms. Are all going to be moving as we get everything ready on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. We're going to take a break, segue back with our guest that's going to be in the house, Maria. We're going to get deep. And as you already test, she's very well rounded. We're going to touch on politics. We're going to touch on family. We're going to touch on all those aspects so you can understand who she is and what she brings to the table. Let me rephrase this. Get ready for a fascinating evening here on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
What?
Welcome back to the Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. We're kicking back, relaxing with our guest Maria. Thank you so much for being in the house.
Thank you.
I gotta
for having me.
I gotta big you up every time I refer to you because I know that you have a loaded palate and the sacrifice you've made to be here is very well appreciated. So as we get ready to blast off in our typical topics, or nothing's typical on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. As we get ready to just build on the organic chemistry of what got you here, let me first start with Dr. Jen, because Dr. Jen was instrumental in getting our guest tonight.
What did I say? What did I do?
Okay, so let me ask you this: how long have you known our guest? Keep it real.
Keep it real. 20 plus.
Wow, it's half your
Yeah.
life.
Yes.
When did you guys meet? I mean, why is she such a good friend? Or let me dissect this. Let me dissect this.
Break it down. Break it down.
Wait, easy there. Jen got some stuff. Jen
No, because
got some stuff.
I want to get some stuff
Wait.
from Dr. Jen before
No.
I go to
I'm
you.
talking about she got freshman year when she was introducing me to Patterson or the Passaic County area, and we're
Digging in the crates? I forgot.
No.
I had no idea where you were going with that. I was like, huh? Okay.
I was just gonna say that Jen was driving and she got sick, and then I took over, and we were.
She was
visiting-
designated driver.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So you went to the same college?
we did.
Oh, yeah. We went to the same college.
We
Okay.
did. We went to the same
Yeah,
college, and then
and-
we used to take tours around.
That's what you call it.
Yeah. You
Take
know,
tours.
and then that brought us closer, I would say.
Nice. But so I'm gonna be microscopic here. What was it about Maria's personality or character that made you thought, okay, this is my ride or die friends? Because you guys have been friends for 20 years. And when I got admitted, what I'm going to use. When I got sucked into the chemistry of this relationship, I was just flabbergasted. So I want to know, what did you see that goes, yo, that's my ride or die chick right there?
It's easy. Maria's heart, her soul, her giving nature, her advice, her love. I mean, everything. She's super attentive, like as you see.
Yeah. True,
always
true. Very
open.
attentive.
Always open. She will always give you the other side of things. You're here, and she'll give you the 180 and say, okay, look at it from this perspective, but make your choice, make your decision.
Big.
Yeah, it's so interesting because my son, he could have picked. We have a very close circle of girlfriends from college, and I even have like my old school friends, but my son chose Jen to be his godmom.
He chose
Jen.
Yeah.
Like he said, I want Jen. And I was like, wow. That was big. Like,
you know what that tells me? Your boy got good taste.
Yes, he does.
That's what that tells me. Your
Yes,
guy
he does.
got
That
shit.
gives me chills every time I hear that.
Yeah, but because I really like gave him, like I bring him up with choices. Like I think he.
Whoa, slow down, son. You're kind of jumping ahead of the Rosenberg interview here because I want to wait to get into that because that's going to be beautiful. But let me kind of bring everything here. So now you guys met in college, and that's how you were able to get to the Rosenberg show.
Yes,
And
21, 22, 23 years later.
And I got to tell you this, just to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm such a close adopted, not even adopted, because your son is my godson.
Yes.
So I'm very close with, so when I that closeness, we're just infectious. So we got through everybody.
Yeah.
But the point was this, I've known Maria also for a couple of years, and I've always been fascinated by your story. And when we formulated the show, you were one of the people in the top 5 that I wanted to have here.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you. That's very honorable.
No, I really appreciate
I'm
you.
humbled,
No.
I have to say.
Well, you should be, because this is going to be big. So
Okay.
let me just stay focused on this real quickly. So Maria, you mentioned being Dominican.
Yes.
Were you born here or born in Dominican?
No, Herrera, Santo Domingo.
Herrera.
Yes.
No, how do you say that again?
Herrera.
Herrera.
Yeah, I'm from the hood in DR.
Ooh, big. Yeah, where's our close up, my dude? Let's look into that camera right now,
yes.
and let's big up the hood in DR.
Yes, the
Okay,
hood
we're
in
gonna say it
DR.
together in Spanish. 1, 2, 3.
Herrera.
Yeah,
That-
big up.
That's
the
where
hood
I'm
in
from.
No
The
shit,
hood,
huh?
Yes, and I came
What
here.
was that like?
It was hood. That's what I knew. So I didn't understand, like the no shoes, that the storefronts,
Yeah.
like I didn't understand, like the dynamics, how everybody raised you. You were everybody's child.
A community raised
It
you.
was a community. You were like Doña Fefa was, everybody's aunt. You know what I mean? Like that's how it went down. And
Yeah.
But then my dad came. My grandmother was the first one to come to New Jersey, and that was like in the '60s. And then my dad came 1979, like 2 years, after I was born, and I stood there with my brothers. And then like 1981 was when we all came.
Okay.
So, so I had that. I was
How
born.
old were you then?
I was going on 6.
Okay.
I was going on 6.
And did you know you were leaving the Dominican Republic for good?
I didn't know.
Or-
That was, that consciousness wasn't
True,
there. I knew
true.
I remember seeing snow in November.
Which
And that was like, I felt like I was in March or something. Like I took a plane out of
Wow.
out of the universe. I was like, oh my God, it was cold. It was cold.
And it was cold.
I was wearing like skinny shoes with like ruffle socks, ruffle white socks, and a dress, and like 3 ponytails, because that's how they did it
Yeah. Back in
back in the day.
classic Dominicans.
And then I was in Newark my whole entire life,
So you left Dominican Republic and transported straight to New York.
straight to Newark.
Wow, a hell of a transition.
That's a hell of a
so
transition.
what was the family makeup like? The reason why I want to ask that, because that usually sets me up for the next question, and there's something heavy on the next question. What was the family makeup like? How many brothers, sisters? What was that dynamic like?
I have 3 brothers.
Okay.
And my grandmother was here, my aunt was here, my uncle was also here, and it was we were sharing an apartment, like all of us all together, and until
How
my
many
dad.
people?
And it was crazy. It was like it was a lot of people
Was it
all
slave
the time.
ship? Was it slave ship crazy?
Yeah,
Where
it was
niggas
a
were
lot
like
of
lined up
people
like
all the
this?
time. Like I was small and everybody was big, but there was still a lot of people. I'm like, there was always people around. Like I'm just like, oh my God. Now I understand it, and I really appreciate like my own space now, because I was just like, man, this was kind of tough. We always share. Sharing was a big thing.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have a choice but to share.
Which is big, because
That's
you
good.
That was a great quality.
Yeah.
That was a great quality.
Yeah, because I
can say.
realized, and the reason why I ask these microscopic questions about family setup and family organics, because it really propels you to how you look at life now.
Yeah.
Especially after you've been through your rebellious stage.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fight back from that. But then once you, like my mom always says, you teach a child the way they should grow, then you allow them to experience.
That's not your mom. That's scripture.
You know what? That's why it's my mom, because she's straight scripture.
That's it.
That's straight scripture.
That's a proverb right there.
Yeah. Yeah, because they'll come back around. And that's what exactly happened to me. So the reason why I'm trying to get microscopic is because I wanted to hear, what that was like to make you who you are now. Because I know what you're doing, and I want my viewers to understand what you're doing. But before I even segue into that, let me just tap on this one more time. So what was something significant during that time that made an impact on you? Was it something Abuela said? Was it something you experienced? Something that made a mark on you back then, after you got to the U.S., that kind of propelled you?
When we arrived to Newark in early 1980s, right? We lived next to the 7th Avenue projects.
Okay.
Right. Which was, oh my God, 7th Ave in Newark, high rise, we saw everything. We saw so much violence, the drugs, we saw I just remember seeing so much drugs, the robberies and everything that I knew at 5, this is not normal.
Wow.
And that was, we all, big up to my mom and my dad, who, they are now 3 doctors in the family.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
can we toast to that real quick?
Yeah.
Can we
Like
toast
big
to
up.
that? Yeah, no, seriously.
Yeah,
Let's
for
not take that
sure.
lightly.
So, but seeing the robbery, seeing like growing up in, it wasn't it wasn't that I grew up in fear, but I knew. Okay, so that stirred me away. Like I remember walking, on the projects. My brother was sickly, so he was in the hospital a lot, and we were walking to the hospital from where we were. He was at San Michael's, and we walked from 7th Ave to the hospital. And on the way there was it was right by 280, and there was a young lady, Caucasian. It was a Friday. And I can see that there was something going down. Like we learned street smarts, because you can kind of pick up like something's about to go down.
Yeah.
And this African American man just took a brick and like broke her window, took her purse, and it happened like in 30 seconds.
Wow.
So that was the kind of environment, that kind of like
you were
agile
into.
Yeah, like that kind of. Well, I think that it was, it was on purpose that God had us at Herrera, the same kind of dynamics. So it prepared us for that kind of impact transition here to the U.S. So those are the kind of experiences that made us street smart, made us agile, made us faster. We have to be, 2 steps ahead, because it's going down, and either you're going to be part of it or you're not, and you got to really act fast.
No, I really, really appreciate the detail that you just shared, because what I heard was the connection you made.
Yeah.
And the bird's eye view perspective you just had on that, because nobody thinks about what am I doing now and how is it preparing me for my next stage.
Right.
That was very profound. At 6, when you're able to see that, like,
Yeah.
this is not right for me, Wow.
Yeah, like I knew, I mean, the sounds of gunshots, the ambulance, the yellow tape. I mean, Newark is still, going through a transition now, and we still see a lot of that. But, it's sad to say, and this is something that, I'm pretty sure we're going to get into later. But, the violence and the folks have become immune to that reality, like to that's now is like, that's part of who we are.
So before we even get into the deep and the interesting parts of it, I want to touch on this real quickly. The family unit, because we try to bring up the family thing here on Rosenberg Radio, because that really makes us who we are. So when you're living in this microcosming of everybody being in your home and you're really chilling, as a little girl growing up, and the experiences there, was there a cultural demand on you to be a certain way?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I'm Latina, I'm Dominican. The machismo, stereotypical, the woman has to be a servant to the man. I believe that to a certain extent, by the way. But I also believe in equality. I believe in feminism. I believe in respect, and I grew up having to clean behind my brothers, having to cook for the family. I grew up, Saturday morning they get to play outside, but I have to do all the chores. Like that was, and I'm not, some people can see that like, I was born a slave. No, I wasn't. I was preparing for, wifehood, motherhood, those responsibilities that nowadays are taken for granted.
Wow. Dr. Jen, I got something profound to say, but I'm going to hold it back because I want to hear your perspective on this.
Oh, same thing. I grew up in that same culture, double sword for me, because the Middle Eastern culture is all about being a servant and serving, especially for a man. And same thing with the Latino culture. That's just what you do. So I hear that.
Yeah, what's so funny though is just today, I was talking to Ellie about this, and I'll say this, and Manny, I want you to let me know which is the main camera, bro. Let me go on camera saying this right now. Get me on camera saying this. But let me pause this in. Here's what's interesting about this: any society or any religion that keep women in a subservient role is because of a male insecurity. I genuinely feel that. Now, I know you said you bigged that up, because here's what's so funny. And I'll swing way to religion real quickly on this. He didn't make you from a bone from my toe. He didn't make you from a bone from my head. He made you from a bone from my side for a specific reason.
Preach
Yeah,
it.
You follow?
I believe
and that means you should be my equal. And every time this society has progressed or I have been bettered is because of my woman. You follow what I'm saying? And I gotta be detailed on this, because I had the most profound experience just a couple of days ago. No disrespect to the Muslims, no disrespect to the Spanish machismo. I'm just telling you, as a Jamaican, who we still have that same machismo, who allowed myself to be trained to, let me appreciate what she's bringing to the table. I don't respect that. Let me finish this. Let me say this real quick before you segue. I'm not going to be long-winded. I'm leaving Subway, and I'm driving out of the parking lot, and there's a guy, a Hindu guy, walking. And I thought he was alone. So he walks by my car. Of course, I'm multitasking. I want to pull out. I almost hit his wife, who was walking 5 feet behind him. You follow? And when I stopped, because I saw the wife, and then he stopped because he saw that I almost hit the wife, right? He looks back, he saw that I stopped, she passed in front of my car, and he just kept walking, as if you continue to maintain your distance behind me. You follow? And I watched, I didn't even move. I stayed here for like 5 minutes looking at this going, there's no way I'm gonna have my wife walking behind me. You are made from a rib from my side. You need to be here. As a matter of fact, every time I benefited is because she's in front.
Big up, L.
Yo.
I think that, you said something very profound, right? You said any religion, right? And I agree. I think that those cultural, underpinnings, they come from a religious point of view, which is not a God intended point of view.
It doesn't validate
the
it.
male,
Yeah.
the male's purpose in my opinion, according to God, is to be the prophet of the house, the king of the house, and the protector and the provider of the house, right? That's the responsibility, right? The word wife means helper, which is exactly what you're saying. Be on my side and be my helper, and that's in the Greek and the Hebrew. And that's what I believe that God intended for the woman to be. I don't believe that we are subservient. Do I believe that it is the woman's role to support the man and to balance a sense of catering? Yes, I do. I think it's important for you to come home to a meal. I think it's important for her to come home to a meal. I think it's important for you to come home to a clean house. I think it's important for her to come home to a clean house. So there's a lot of religion out there that means say, it is the place of a woman to stay behind, to be, degraded or lower class than the man. And I don't believe that. And I don't think that God intended for that to be the reality is either. The role of a man, right, as a king is to protect.
Yes.
That's you have to protect her. How can you protect her if you walk in 5 feet in front of her? That's it's to be a prophet. It's to go to God, find out what God wants for the woman, and say, I'm covering you in your household, and I'm covering you, my family. I'm covering you. It is my role to go to God on behalf of my family and to provide. The man has to provide.
What's so funny? I gotta go ahead.
And don't forget, these people, or let's just say that couple, that's all they know, right? So that's all they know. Okay, so they're here in America, and they know how Americans do it different, but that's just for them. Americans do it different. So when you're raised generationally and that's all you know, that's what you do.
No, I respect that. And I think one of the things that, as you said something profound right now that's caught my attention, which was one, men, if I'm going to protect, let me be in front. Mm-hmm. Let me be the scout. Let me be ahead. So maybe instead of looking at her as walking behind him, maybe he's ahead of her to protect, but at the same time, I almost ran his wife over. So
yeah.
Look out. Yeah, she didn't. But, I wanted to just, compliment you for being detailed with that. And when we get ready to segue into the religion aspect of this, we want to touch on that, but I kind of want to keep things in order because there's so much to talk about. I can see where this could be going for hours. But as I get ready to wrap up the family segment of this, and we touched on the things that made an impact on you growing up, and your perspective, and the fact that you had to be cleaning while your brothers were playing, and those type of things. I wanted to just ask you this question. And people, I don't think it's a competition between your father or your mother, but in terms of who you seem to be duplicating now in your later life. Who do you find yourself duplicating now?
It is so interesting you ask that, because I asked myself, seeing not only my mom and my dad, but just my grandma, my brothers, I feel like I have a part of all of them, that inform who I am, right? Like their experiences, I understand the way that they make decisions now. I consider, what frame are they coming from? Like Jen was saying, this is what they knew. This is the best decision that they could have made at the time. When I was growing up, my dad was, an alcoholic. He was drinking, to the point where he got himself into jams, and we experienced that, and I there's, in my mom, who I really appreciate, the greatest lesson she's ever given me is forgiveness, right? Because my mom, she's a very strong disciplinarian, but at the same time, she was forgiving you. So it's weird. I couldn't understand, how could you just hit me, but then now you're kind to me, kind of thing. So it was so it was but I understood her. I understood, and it shaped, how quickly she is to forgive her children because she loves them, right? And I think that's something that now I'm learning and I'm trying to understand. So my mom's experience of forgiving and loving me helped me forgive and love my dad, and forgive and love my dad when he was drinking so much alcohol, and the alcohol was controlling him, and he was becoming belligerent in his actions, right? So I had to go back to those spaces and forgive those times. Wow. And that came from my mom's example of forgiving us
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Which
beautiful.
is, you want to say anything before I hit this out the park?
Other than forgive and you will be in peace.
Yeah. Beautiful peace. Beautiful
Yeah,
peace.
yes.
But however, imagine this. Your mom being under the pressure of dealing with kids, the husband who's not really on point, based on what you were telling me with the alcohol thing. I think what I'm so fascinated by, it complements what I just saying. Here's a woman.
Back to that again.
Back to that again.
Yeah, I can see that it's something that's very deep for you. Yeah.
Yo, you guys are official. Wow. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. I will always wave the flag high and strong and loud for the women. You know, I'm telling you right now.
Big up.
No, straight up. No, I mean, when you dissect it, because, you know, when I grew up, and my mom had to really, because my father passed away at a very integral, we were older, but when I saw the way my mom rallied around and had to gain things under control, I respected women on a different level.
Yeah.
Now, in the work that I feel that I do, and even the women I'm surrounded by, I see so much strength, and I'm like, I can even go to the practical application of strength. I do kickboxing every day. I go to the gym. The gym is 95% women that are working out in here, and when it comes to the tenacity, when it comes to the stamina, I'm tapping out before some of these women are tapping out.
Tell me about it. We did the stairs coming up.
Yeah, the stairs coming up to the studio was bananas.
Yes, I was like, I got set up right now. I'm like, it's April Fool's. What's going on? I'm like, hold a second, Jen. And then she trying to talk. I'm like, we don't got no time to talk, Jen. Can you call me or something? Like, text me. Can you text me or something? I was like, oh no. I
didn't warn her.
Listen, I even sent you a picture.
Sorry.
Like, all right, the Smart Link video right now will be good. Like, can you hook this
Can I
up?
Skype you from the third floor?
Yes, I'm saying.
Ladies
You know,
and
it's
gentlemen.
good.
Can I call it in?
You're good. Once you hit the 4th floor,
You gotta
it's a
pause.
wrap. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
gotta
gotta
pause on
pause.
the
You gotta
4th floor.
and then I had to pretend that it wasn't hard coming up. I was like, oh man, these people set me up.
No, I love that. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, Squirrel Rosenberg TV. Our guest just talking about the hike or the mission.
It's a nice studio, though. I have to say, I'm very impressed. And
Thank you.
awesome.
And what's so funny is we make sure we have the Poland Springs going. We have some Heinies in the fridge.
Yes, I have
And we make
seen.
sure when you come in, you can recoup. But thank you so much for coming up. As we get ready to segue into a couple of topics, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you, all the footage, all the classic stuff you're seeing is going to be available on our YouTube channel. We're going to be streaming this live. We're going to be allowing you to hear this audio on our SoundCloud. Stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break. We're right back at you. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, Squirrel Rosenberg TV. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio coming to you back live and direct from the lab. We're just marinating with our guests right now, Dr. Jen and I, Maria, kicking back at the table. We're getting to so many deep conversations. That's why you need to stay tuned, because behind the scenes, it's classic. We were just listening to some of the Raekwon Jodeci record that's available on the SoundCloud, Squirrel Rosenberg Volume 8. However, let me just calm things down and segue back into what we were talking about. And, people were like, why did you break? The sound Nazi and my guy behind the camera got to tell me we got to keep things on a point. So I'm trying to keep things sweet and sexy. But Maria, we were talking about the growing up and the family and the impact you made. And the question I asked you before we closed was, who made the impact? And you answered your mom, because she taught you the ability and the skills to be able to forgive and move forward. So let's just segue to that. What do you do for a living right now?
I am an educator. I'm an administrator. I'm in administration right now.
Okay. Why that role?
I believe it was an assignment. I believe that, believe that we have to be in tune with our, God's purpose for us, and I'm here so that God can gain something. And I think that the reason that I'm here is that so that he can gain, children who are respected and valued and have integrity and have respect and resilience and responsibility. And it is my duty to lead that.
Yeah, I want to big you up for being so passionate about that. When I think about the philosophical answer to that question, I'm like, oh my God, what did I just step into? No, that was big. No, because you gave an answer from a godly perspective. And I read an article earlier that said a lot of people are unhappy because we're not working or doing what our talents are. Like we all have
Oh,
talents,
yes.
you know, and it seems like you've just really aligned yourself. So we want to dig into that a little bit. However, I got to remind you, on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, the mic is your friend.
Yes, sir.
And your story is so classic, I need to get close so everybody can hear what's really going on.
Got it.
So the question I asked was, why did you get into the field you did? And you mentioned that you wanted to serve the kids. What's the age group? Tell me a little bit about the dynamics there.
Taught, this is my 17th year now, which is
17
years, which is like, oh my God.
And you're 16. What the hell is going on? what can I?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like 17 years in. I can't believe it.
going on?
As a matter of fact, it was so funny because on Thursday night, the mayor's office was like, they called me up and it's like, oh, you're receiving an award for, Women's History Month. And I was like, man, all right. And then it goes from meetings to meetings.
I think you're going to skip by that. Hold up, ladies and gentlemen, of Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. She's trying to be coy. Let's slow that down. Repeat that again.
Rewind.
You got a call from the mayor's office about you getting an award.
Yeah.
For?
It was like a leadership award, like for Women's History Month.
Okay.
So I was sure, and like, we talked about the meetings. So we were going to meetings. And when I get there, this young lady comes to me and she was like, oh my God, Miss Ortiz, before it gets crazy, because there's a lot of people here, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm in the Air Force now. You were my 8th grade teacher,
Wow.
And it was like,
Oh, how awesome.
it was so, that happens all the time. But I think that my reward that evening, right, was hearing her story and hearing how I made an impact in her life. And
And it sounded like it was all subconscious because you didn't know who she was.
to be honest, and I said to her, I apologize, but if I do the math, it's been over like 1,000 something kids, and I'm like, I met a lot of people, and so but she remembered me clearly, and it was really interesting how she just immediately came to me and she said, I know it's going to get really busy, and you're sitting in, it was like a designated area and stuff, and it was such a blessing just to see her. And to see she's doing so well. I have some students of mine who are now my teachers. So I have two teachers who were my students.
Wow.
Which is like really awesome. That to me is more rewarding than anything.
Wow.
So
Very
I have to
cool.
say that it's really cool.
No, that's fascinating. That's
Yeah, it's really
fascinating.
cool.
And the what's so funny is my mom's a teacher.
Yeah.
And I have an affinity or an appreciation for teachers because I saw the self-sacrificing role or the self-sacrificing, mode you have to be in to serve. And it seems like you're a fascinating leader because you've worked out the magic of serving.
Yeah, when I don't know if you know, like the educational reforms that's happened in Newark, where
No,
there's
tell
been,
me about it.
Well, it's happening. Newark leads New Jersey because it's the largest city, and other urban cities follow, like Patterson. So I'm pretty sure that it's happening here too. But there's some schools that were designated renew schools or turnaround schools, and that's when they designate the in need of improvement, and then somebody has to go and clean it up. So that was me. That's they chose me to do that, and I was like, no.
To go clean up the school.
Yeah, so I was like, no.
So
no.
let's be specific here.
No, that's not what I want to do.
when we talk about cleaning up a school, when we say that it was your job to go clean up a school, we're not talking about the aesthetics or the outdoors. We're talking about
No. I'm talking about like I was told in November that this is going to come out in the news, and it's going to be big, but before it moves forward, they wanted to sit with me and let me know. And I was like, God, I know you don't want this for me. Like, no. And the funny thing was that I kept denying it. I was like, I'm gonna pray. And even though I knew deep down that this is what I had to do because I was on an assignment kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it went from that to I was expecting with my daughter, right?
Yeah.
So, while all those decisions were being made, my belly was growing. I wiped out an entire staff, which was 155 people.
Because they were not producing.
Yeah. So what happens in a turnaround setting is that, you all the teachers are removed from the building, and there's an entire new administration, right? So I was designated a school that was, the 4th largest school in the district. And I had to hire 150 people, like from like April to, I'm going to say like August. Right, which is a lot
That's
of work.
a huge overhaul.
It is a huge overhaul because now you're looking at quality. You're looking for it's not just interviewing the person, is screening them, is going back to their references, is doing model lessons, is trying to you really are trying to put the best candidate in front of children, and then I'm giving birth. So I gave birth on Thursday, and I was at work on Monday, and it was
Are you serious?
I didn't have a choice. I believed that
whoa.
I would
Let's slow this down. Back to the superwoman that we have at this table on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio that gave birth on Thursday.
Yeah.
And was at work on Monday.
I had to, because I felt as though everything was going to fail if I would have said, you know what, let me take some time and then it will figure itself out kind of thing. It was going to implode, and then my name was still going to be attached to that.
True.
So I believe that I made the best decision. So, we were holding like my entire staff was at the house, and, like, big up to my VP who was, looking at he was my new VP too. And he was like looking at my breast while I was nursing. And he's like, holy crap. And I think, so it was that kind of like, requirement at the time, which was very, very profound.
No, but what's so funny? We think about this, and I gotta say this. Let's think about it. I mean, I have the flu. In your position, I'm not coming into work. You're talking about giving
I don't know.
birth.
You can't. Like I said, I think it would have been more detrimental for me to clean up my own mess. It was already a mess that I had a clean slate. So it was going to be, if I did that, if I would have just said, you know what, I'll take my 8 weeks and I'll come back. I was going to come back to, a broken staff, students who didn't know what was going on.
And maybe a new trust you have to rebuild.
Yeah, it was. I think I made the best decision.
Yeah, so funny. So we kind of jump.
And my daughter still loves me. She does. She really likes me, and I like her.
You really right there tapped into essence, into who you are. That's your nature.
Yeah.
Maria goes for the gusto.
Yeah, Jewel just dropped on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio about our guest. Maria goes for the gusto.
Yes.
And I'm glad you segued into that, because I asked you initially, what led you into the role you're doing right now, and all I heard was this passion to serve and to serve kids. And as we analyze a little bit or learn a little bit about your job, and I just had to shut up real quickly as you just told us, this obstacle you overcome with the birth and going back to work because your name was on the line. Now, as you see that you've made those sacrifices, are you didn't mention that, but I'm gonna just ask the question again. Are you seeing a settlement, like a bigger impact being made, or things getting better?
Oh, absolutely. So now, year 1, year 2, year 3, the school's discipline and culture is established.
Okay.
So now this is how we do it, kind of thing, and then you have to get into like academics, and you have to get into the curriculum, and you have to get into the rigor. So I am very big on data-driven instruction. I'm very big on data. My team.
We were talking about that earlier on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio.
Absolutely. Like, you can't make decisions without knowing the facts and knowing data.
And the data gives you, those numbers never fail.
So I, it's funny because and I'm gonna drop this only on Squirrel Rosenberg, radio, because this is something that I just had a meeting, very important meeting with superintendent that I requested. Because while we were during one of our, leadership cabinet meetings with the superintendent and the rest of the principals, Newark has about 65 principals. The superintendent, he says, well, that we know the data and it's not as significant as we expected, because, and then I just got so angry that while he was talking, I sent him a text and I said, I would like to know who's your source, because, I just want to compare your source with what I'm tracking, because it doesn't seem to be the same. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So one of the most difficult things that education is experiencing, that many a times it's one of those sudden topics that no one wants to discuss because no one has a solution. And people believe that if you're in education, you have a solution. And that's why you have like Alpine, and you have, Short Hills, and you have all these other folks. Like, how could it be that these cities urban cities have so much funding for children, and they're still failing. So I asked myself that question. I almost wondered, like, am I signed up for this, and should I be signed up with this if I have a $10 million budget for 1 year, and I'm still, like, my students are not failing, like they're not doing well.
Right.
And I questioned and I tracked every single kid, and this is what I came up with, right? 30%, an average of 28 to 30% of my students are mobile within the year.
Which you're moving from school to school.
They're moving from school to school. They're coming. So I don't have the Katie and Melissa. They're in kindergarten together, and they're in fifth grade together, and they graduate eighth grade together. Like, I don't have that luxury, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that sustainability. What I have is a third grade kid that by the time that I get him in third grade, he's been to 8 schools, right? So my transiency goes from having, like, for example, 165 students, right? That it's March, and they came to the school that I'm at, and then I have like 84 students who left.
Oh,
right. So you ask the teacher, like, I'm sitting having a data meeting with the teacher, and I said, let's track how you're performing and how your students are growing. And she's crying because she's giving it all she's got. And then I'm looking, and it says, well, you don't have the same population. Who you started with in September, it's not the same, and the district doesn't have, this nation doesn't have a solution for that because of the mobility. So, I charge the public, and I charge, the politicians and the city leaders and the suburban leaders, I charge them to be involved in a stay put. Like, they need to know the detriment of the children and the consequences that happens on children when they move so frequently, right? And it's an economic conversation, because that people move because it's an economic conversation.
I was just going to say that's what you get in a big city
it's
environment.
Right. And then, it's like people can't pay the rent, and they get evicted, and, they live with an aunt, and they live with an aunt. So I totally get that it's a social economic condition, right? But you're still giving me $10 million a year, right?
And expecting a massive amount of results under those circumstances.
But if that's true, then give them the money.
Filter it through the different departments.
You have to find, like, the ideas, are naive. Like, it's very refreshing, and that's why I say I'm just doing it for the radio here. And it's very refreshing. It is not something that, because I was like, okay, maybe we should, just have a school just for students that are transient and students that are mobile, right? Just for them. And then it's like, okay, how fair is it to a kid? It's not his fault. It's not their fault.
Yeah, true. True. And
so
how do you decide who goes into that group?
Well, they come in, like, whoever comes in the middle of the year.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? So then, because it has such an impact on even the students who are there, and who, the data did show that the people whose career and tenure were more consistent in the school outperformed those who were in and out. So those are topics that are still, being discussed in education, that you have to, like, how do you tug with that? Like, how do you respond to that? Throwing money, it's not the answer.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. You can have the highest effective teacher, but if the teacher is like, okay, this kid was, performing at this level, and by March they're no longer with you, but yet you get somebody else who's 2, 3 grade levels behind, then, the teachers get responsible. So there's still a lot of conversation, and then a lot of people, they don't want to entertain those conversations because, it's a reality that, people, they would have to entertain social economics. They would have to entertain, the social service system. They will have to entertain, and it's just too deep, too complicated.
I was about to say
it's too complicated.
It's going way too deep, because that's where you can't just keep throwing $10 million at you.
I'm like, you can throw $10 million if you want to.
What's so funny? In the beginning of this, not the beginning, but as you were saying, give the money to them. I'm like, what is she talking about? But I understand, because if the base was more solid, then the kid coming in would stay longer. He would get what he needs, and he would grow. I completely understand exactly what you're saying. So as we segue and touch on a couple of things, I want to thank you for being so passionate about not only being a teacher, but being such a dedicated teacher. I mean, there's people out there who are going to work for a paycheck, but I see that you're more passionate about your role and your impact on not only the system, but that individual child.
Absolutely.
and that's big. I was fortunate enough to, and I'll say this: I was watching Viceland earlier, and it was about football, and in this county, I forgot the name of the county in Miami where it's prominent, but it was, what I saw was these men working with these kids, setting up these programs for these kids to be involved. And I was just so moved by any adult who's going to take time out to benefit the kid. Yeah, that's our future, and I hear what you're working on, and you're on a different level because you're actually seeing it at the corporate level, looking down, making the adjustments, seeing budgets, seeing people moving, seeing the transiency, seeing a teacher. Because as a teacher, you probably fire me because half my class moved out.
Right. So then, that brings my second point, where my teacher mobility is about 50%.
Yeah, I'm out.
So I'm out.
I'm out.
Like, if this one was signed up for, and I'm proven not to be successful, then the system is so broken. And and question: is it designed? Is this on purpose so that we will be the sacrificial lamb? In other words, so that we can get.
Yeah, she's dropping jewels.
So
that's a very good point.
Isn't it deliberate? It may be that we would have to be that in order for the rest to be, right? But at least, and when we met with the state, I met with the state, the new ASA, which is the new standards, and I met with the state and I said, when you're going to tell our narrative, say it right. Tell our narrative. Don't tell your narrative about us. Which is, many a times they don't report the true mobility. They don't report, the teacher transience. They don't report, those are dynamics that they only want to see, performance, right? They don't report, how many students actually came that are,
so that impacts your numbers, which makes things look crazy.
Oh, absolutely. You go to greatschools.org and I'm at 1. And it's like, that's the lowest it can be. When I know for a fact that you come to my school, we're not at 1. We went to the Supreme Court, we had a 45-minute session with the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor. We went to the White House, we went to, my kids went to a prison. Because they were doing my 4th grade students.
Fourth grade. What's the age?
9 years old. Yeah, 5, 4, 9, 9 years old. They go to a prison because their units are, our social justice units focus on, prison reform. Viceland filmed at school, the impact.
Why are you bringing a 9-year-old to the prison?
Because their parents are there. Because there's a story told about their parents, that is a negative story, is a broken story, is I'm less than because my dad's in prison, because I was born in prison, because my mom, and shout out to Dr. Maria Muhammad, who does that work globally.
Let's slow that down real quick. Mention that name again.
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Bahia Muhammad. She does that work globally.
You had mentioned earlier, before we went to the break, the author, or who's that person you mentioned?
Dr. Bahia Muhammad.
Yeah.
Her work is it's global, and what she does is she's a professor at Howard University.
Okay.
And her classes take place in the prison, which is because her thesis is about the impact that incarceration has on children, and the stories and the narratives, and how they're the kids she's putting a spin on the incarceration. She's talking about the stories that the children know,
are telling.
But they're told, oh, that is in college, or he's away, or that they're not really told, there's a situation and your daddy was locked up, and that doesn't make you wrong or a bad person. Yeah. It makes the situation what it is.
Yeah.
And then she really does comparison. She goes around the world, really taking the narrative of children.
So is that more applicable to your environment, because a lot of your kids, their parents are incarcerated?
Right. So Viceland, we hooked up with Viceland, and Michael Kenneth Williams, shout out to Big Mike. He's the ambassador for ACLU, but Viceland also, they came to the school and they were able to bless the children by giving them a space, right, to tell their stories and learn the language and the vocabulary and the
jargons of this prison language or this.
Yeah, like she has a children's book that her and her daughter co-wrote, and in the children's book is a picture book where the kids are able to learn about the prison life, and they're informed, right? They're informed appropriately, which is something that, you know, that's a big undertaking, because many a times, even when we were preparing for the you know, the project, parents were afraid of
this year.
Yeah, that happened in January of this year. When we were preparing for the project, the parents questioned, and some of them did not allow for their children to participate because they did not want their children to, you know, to open up that kind of worms. In other words, you know, they didn't want them to, you know everything, you know. But it's pain, right? And it's a narrative and an emotion that it's so deep that if we don't allow the children to express themselves and the pain that they have in their narrative and their experiences, then, you know, they're going to grow up with that in them. And if that's not channeled appropriately, the cycle will repeat itself. The cycle will go.
I was just about to interrupt you and say that, you know.
And not only that, but I think that's a beautiful thing what she's doing. But don't forget, these kids, right? Because you're young and your brain is absorbing, and so now you're identifying with that. Yeah. So you're identifying with that parent's issue and the reason why they may be there, whether they know or not. But even identifying, just imagine a parent just being absent. You identify with that. Now that becomes your identity of you not being sufficient and you just lacking, and all the, you know, adjectives you can use or synonyms that kind of portray that gap, that missing, that loss. And that's what's important, is bringing it to surface and light and saying, you know what, that's that issue. That's not your issue, and that's nothing to do with you.
Right. And I have to say, I mean, the work that she did, I mean, it was extensive work. We were there filming the children, and by the end of the sessions, the children were all telling their stories, like their perspective of, you know, dad's absence or mom's absence, or, you know, why am I with auntie, or why am I in a foster home, or, you know, and how does it make me feel? And they were able to put words, right, which words are sentences, right? And sentences are like a demand. Like when you're sentenced to something, you have an assignment, right? Which is really, really profound, because the sentences are the ideas that the children are creating. And when they're sentencing themselves to a reality, you know, then
I want you to, I'm sorry to interrupt you as you're on this tangent, but I that was so profound how you dissected the sentence. You know,
that was deep, Maria. Pull it back.
We have to. No, I'm sorry. I have to pull you back on that. You know, seriously, because, you know, when I went through my tertiary education and you had to write a sentence, you know, let's dissect that again.
Yeah, you know, a sentence is an idea, right? And this is something that, like, doing observations and seeing how children think, you know, many of the ideas are fragmented, right? So their sentences are fragmented. That's why you have children who write incomplete sentences. And when they write incomplete sentences, they have incomplete ideas. So they're all over the place in every way of the word. You're looking at a student who falls in that category. Yeah, so I can see why you have to, like, constantly stay focused on one thing, you know what I mean? Because I'm confident in my lane. But I respect that you're observant of that, because go ahead. You know, so when you sentence, that's why, you know, scripture says, you know, there's power of life and death in the tongue, right? And when you speak something, when you speak an idea, when you speak a sentence, it's sentencing, which means it's a verb, right? It's going to assign you. It's an action. And if that's incomplete, or if that's negative, or if that's, you know, if you're saying, oh, you're just like your father, or, you know, you're never going to amount to nothing. It was like, you're just a failure. Those are sentencings that have actions, and that action may become a reality. If another sentence doesn't come and say, you know what, that's not true. That's a lie. You are more than a conqueror. You are, fearfully and wonderfully made. You are made in God's image. You have to substitute those sentences so that the sentence then becomes the assignment, right?
Wow. Jewel on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. Wow, what a jewel.
Yeah.
Because I love when you bring up a point that needs to be addressed, but I love it when you add the answer. So you were just saying this. You can do something so the sentence becomes an assignment.
Right. And then in schools, right, like my teachers, like we have to be conscious of when the child or college student or whatever writer, if the thesis is incomplete, then the child is stuck. They're incomplete because it's not. That's why you have to continually write the first draft and the second draft and the third draft, because what you ultimately want is for that idea and that sentence to have that much power, right? To have an assignment.
Mm-hmm. You want that sentence
to be yes, and that's the liberation of you writing and expressing yourself in a way, because that's what a sentence does. It helps you express.
Yeah, can I bother you and ask, why do you give a shit?
Okay, so
why
you took me back, when you first started. You asked me okay, where'd you come from, right? And I said to you I come from brokenness, and it is my responsibility to have the 2 masters, the Ivy League, the doctorate. It's my responsibility to know that I come from that brokenness. If I don't do anything about it, that brokenness will remain. So you said I'm here because I have an assignment from God. I have to help God in such a way. That's why I care. The along the way stuff is the along the way stuff, but I'm on an assignment.
That's big. I was moved, and it's very rare that you catch Squirrel Rosenberg at a loss for words, but I gotta tell you, I was moved by that answer, and I kind of wanted to hear that, because I want everybody to tap into that. Just don't go through your day or go through your job so mundanely. Be a purpose, have a purpose, and deliberately go out and act accordingly. It was so fat. Wow. Can I just lift this green bottle up and salute you? Yeah,
cheers
it was
to that.
toast to this Poland Spring.
Cheers.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that was classic.
Yeah.
That was classic. And as I get ready to segue, I just want to remind everybody, on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, as I said before, and Dr. Jen know this very well, we are now a part of the stuff, but we want to be a part of the good stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff that you're going to hear, the story that Maria is sharing, so she can give an application to your life. And you're like, wow, if she was able to come from brokenness and be so driven to connect those.
Yeah, I think that, everyone should just pause, right? Because we're so busy. I don't have any social media, by the way. And
welcome to the Squirrel Rosenberg Show. Really.
Which is really interesting, because I don't do the Facebook thing or the tweet thing or, the other.
We're stepping out
whatever,
there comfortably, but we know.
Yeah, but I think it's important just to take a moment, right? And just, complete the fragments that are still there. So just even if you go from having, there's a lot of fragments that we have, and that's why people are so overwhelmed, right? They're stressed out. Jen was talking about how people are fatigued and just tired.
Sentences.
Yeah, there's all incomplete sentences. That's what it is. And if you could just complete one sentence, just one, that's just complete one. That's it.
You know why I touched?
And then you're sentenced.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so beautiful. I'm having a moment here on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, because what I'm hearing is incomplete sentences. So I was here yesterday in my studio, and Manny was working on some stuff, and I came in. I was so exhausted and drained because I had so many incomplete sentences. And I call up Ellie, and I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna bang out some stuff, and everything I accomplished, it was like a brick off my shoulder.
Yeah.
It was like
just think about this, right? When you're sentenced, right, then you are incarcerated. And
some of those incarceration is self-inflicted.
Oh, absolutely.
I take that on.
And Bob Marley talked about that.
Big up Bob Marley. Straight
Big up Bob Marley.
Yeah, big up. Go.
Yeah. So Bob Marley talked about that, but the emancipate yourself from mental slavery, right?
None but ourselves can free our mind.
Yes.
Wow.
Big up.
Yeah, I've never gotten that.
So this is what happens, right? Like when you incarcerate yourself spiritually, mentally,
from mental slavery.
Yeah. So when you have 100%. All these fragments, right? It's almost like doing your bid half the time. And when you're half the time, you're like, man, I can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah, you still have the bid to do.
Yeah. So you wanted to do your time.
Wow. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. What a jewel just dropped by our guest. No, I love when you're able to get the music. You just dropped a major jewel because as I'm awake right now.
Yes.
No, I'm serious because I know that song and I've heard it so many times. I've never understood.
Yeah.
What does it mean when we subject yourself to mental slavery?
Yeah, we do that. We do that to ourselves.
Oh, yes.
We incarcerate ourselves.
Oh yes.
We and we put so much pressure on us, and there's so many things. Like you have to select what speaks to you. Not everybody has the privilege of speaking to me.
Big up.
And
saying
that.
Slow down. Yeah, can I? And when you come in on that, could you just look in the camera and say that right, Manny? Which is our number one camera, bro? Is it right here? Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. We are live. I want to catch her when she says this because there's a lot of passion with that. Look at that camera and tell me what you just said. Not everyone has the privilege of talking to you. You see, I don't answer every memo. I don't answer every email. And it doesn't have to be a physical email or a physical memo.
No. It could be the haters. It could be, all these distractions for no reason. The drama, like you don't have to answer to that. Like there are just some things that are assigned to distract you from your purpose, movement. Right? To delay you, to control you.
So you don't have to answer to every stimuli.
You don't have to do that.
Dr. Jen, you're about to say.
And what you were saying is you have to be selective to what speaks to you.
Yeah.
And right when you said that, it just triggered. That is our problem because now when I think of social media, I see the benefits and I'm a part of it, but I also see the problem of it because now you are almost forced. You don't have the selection anymore. You're forced to keep up with that. Yeah. And you're forced to keep up with all the memos and everything that you see.
Yeah.
And it's
you don't have to answer everything.
Right. And that is
big.
The boundary there has just been shattered.
Can you imagine if we adapted that philosophy? We wouldn't be because when you get an email, you get it instantly. You have to reply instantly.
Yeah. Like that's a lie.
Dude,
that's a lie. I don't know who created that, but that's not true.
Yeah, but what's so funny is, and I'm gonna pull away from this comment and look at it more from a global perspective. You don't have to respond to everything.
Yeah.
When you think about the most successful people, when you think about the world idea breakers, when you think about Einstein, right? He was in the lab all day, every day.
Which is where we are right now. Stay focused.
So and I tell you, not everyone spoke to him.
You're right.
So it's like he was creating because he wasn't distracted with. He wore black every day, the same thing, because he didn't want to think about what he was gonna wear. Like that discipline is far removed from us, and we're so intrigued by all of this newness and all this technology and all this speed, right? Speed everything.
Now.
Like, and it's like, it's taken away from what can we create from that nothingness, and creation comes from nothingness.
Wow.
Oh yes.
Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, another jewel. Creation comes from
nothingness.
Got to stay focused, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take our last break before we come back and hit a home run with this. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, Squirrel Rosenberg TV. You're being in tuned to our organic conversation with one of our biggest gems on our show right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back right after these messages. 1, Welcome back to the Squirrel Rosenberg Show. We're kicking back with our wonderful guest Maria in the house. I got Dr. Jen on my right, and we're just marinating and just powwowing and building as we were getting ready to finish up our last topic when we're talking about creativeness comes out of nothing. And I really love everything that you've built on and expound on. And to get it to come into the last segment of our show, I wanted to, and number one is, it's tough to rap with a guest like this. I mean, being honest, my boy in the back, E-Dub, is just reminding me like, dude, you said it's going to be 15 minutes. My camera guy gave me the 10-minute mark, but what she has to drop has been so valuable. And I think the most important thing is, because it's been so passionate, I don't want to interrupt the flow, because I want to hear, and I want people to hear, that when there's passion behind your movement, you can accomplish the unaccomplishable. Because you were put in positions, the schools you were given, the scenarios you were put into were like, yo, you had to win, and you did. From giving birth to going back to work, to the philosophy, to everything that we've spoken of up to now. Allow me to do this. So here we are in 2017, in the position you are right now. I give you the magic wand to say, hey, Maria, you can now make it the ideal world for the kids in New York, for the surroundings that you're in. What are the 3 top things you would change? You have the magic wand.
Wow, that's a very profound question.
I know, I love dropping that on my guests.
Yeah, and then you said only 10 minutes, so I think that I would focus on...
E-Dub, what do you want to say on the mic, bro?
Yeah. So I think that, we have to focus on a few things. Number one, I will say mental health, right? That is one of the areas where is the taboo. That's the area where nobody really kind of wants to deal with, bipolar depression. They don't want to deal with mood swings, post-traumatic stress. They don't want to deal with, and then
maybe they don't know how to deal with.
Right, but it's not just that they don't know how, right? We have a broken system that doesn't support them. People want to fix, healthcare, right? People want to get folks better, but they're not getting to the root as to what's causing the manifestation of the diseases.
Okay.
A disease is a dis-ease.
Correct.
Right? That you're not...
Slow down. She's trying. You're not going to sneak a jewel like that by
you
me.
You said 10 minutes.
Son, I'm like that dude at the gold mine shoving the water. Let's drop that jewel again.
Yeah.
A disease
is a dis-ease.
A dis-ease.
Yes.
A discomfort.
A discomfort is a they're not easy. Right? They're not comfortable. They're not, something is wrong, right? And it doesn't, a disease is the manifestation of what's wrong, right? Depression, right? We need to target like what is causing the depression? What is, those are those topics, right? And we struggle with them so much. We are asking urban families to, be immune to death. I had a kid who lost his brother. He was shot. The next day he was in school. He playing basketball. I'm just like, hey,
desensitized to what's going on.
Yeah. They do the mural thing, and then that that stays there for a month maybe, and that's a long time, and then that's it. And then that's it. You either get wrapped up into the same cycle, or you infiltrate in an area, or you don't, and you become sad and deprived, unmotivated, discouraged, and then you're doing the best you can, right? And that's not even talking about the genetics. That's not even talking about what generations and generational curses of folks who have dealt with the severity of depression, the severity of schizophrenia, of bipolar disorder, which are topics that we have to deal with, and I think that we've done a poor job as a country and as a nation, to respond to those roots.
Well, what's so funny is, and Dr. J can attest to this, you see that in our society right now.
Yeah.
You see where the guy who went into the movie theater in Colorado and shot those people, he had a mental issue, and people are able to access, it's just bananas right now.
Yeah, but so, I'm even talking about the kid who is depressed for some reason. He don't even know why he's depressed, and then all of a sudden now he's being bullied, or he's bullying, or he's, and then the next thing you know, it's
that
like
was big.
you're going in like, and then it becomes a cycle, and then the next thing you know, he's 20 years old, he's at a party, and he's always bullied someone or whatever the case may be,
bullying.
or he was, or either which way, these people become bosses, they become directors, they become, you see what I'm saying? Like
Talk on it.
And
Talk on it.
What happened when we didn't deal with, social emotional language that help cope with those mental illnesses?
So let me bring this in because we're on a very, unfortunately time constrained on this one. But
my magic wand, back to my magic wand.
Your magic wand would fix mental.
That's one of the major areas.
No, and so funny, I salute you for even bringing that up, because I don't think that would be something that's on my agenda. But that's the root, that's the base form of a lot of things that could happen in our society.
Right.
So that's the first thing you would accomplish.
And then I would say, when we are broken, right? Humans, when I'm broken, I cry. I call a friend. I pray, right? Or I will turn to scriptures, or I will meditate. Some of my sisters, they will go to the Quran. Someone else will, they will do yoga. So, we all need permission to do that, because the schools, institutions, they say don't do that. And it's like, you're gonna take the Bible out of schools and the Quran out of schools, but you're gonna put them in jails? So it's like, okay, that I don't understand, right? Because that's a coping. We need to go back to our space of how do we cope with our pain, right?
That's medicating.
Right.
That's the society we live in, medicating.
Right. And it's like, and then, it benefits the institutions and capitalists to continue that, vicious cycle, of medicating. And it's like, let's go back to our organic roots. That what we want to do is just have a good old fast.
Yeah.
Go back to that time where you're just like removing all those things and cleansing your mind, and you're going through a fast so that you could be set aside, and get to that. So I say that those are my two greatest magic wand pieces.
You would definitely try to resolve the mental issue, and I like how you went to the root of the mental issue, and also the second thing was,
I would say, the society has to continue to support, ways of coping with pain.
The coping.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, it's not supporting the church, and it's not supporting religion, because that is not what I'm asking. But how often do you go to spaces, right? And it's okay. It's radical to me how the hospitals have a chapel.
Because they know.
Yeah, you best to believe. Because
that was big. Know. That was big.
But the schools
big.
can have a chapel, like they couldn't be. I know we gotta get going, but
no, that was big. That was big, and I love the way you kind of brought that in, because think about it. There's no more place where you see vulnerability.
Yeah,
and
we're vulnerable
in the hospital when our loved ones on their deathbed, and there's a chapel there you can go and beseech and humbly come before the power that we all know.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. So you have one more wish, and please don't say give me 3 more wishes. Go.
One more wish.
I wouldn't say a wish. You got one more wave of the magic wand. What would it be?
I would say, if I had a magic wand, and it would be like, I would say everybody forgive. Like a gift. Like I would have like the superpower, right, of forgiveness, and everybody gets to forgive.
Well, that would cure all the mental health issues.
All the mental health issues. Yeah, but I just like toasted that, right?
Toast to that. Toast to that. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. I want to give a big shout out to our guest, Maria. Welcome to the house. Yo, that was a beautiful drop the mic ending. Everybody forgives. And I don't know, as a matter of fact, we didn't even get a chance. We kind of skimmed around it because we were going to touch on politics, but we did a little bit. But if we implement that philosophy through the entire realm of people that we come in touch with, from the guy in the elevator to us interacting, to the people you come across, if you interject what you just said, it will be a level playing field. A round of applause for our guest again. Big shout to Dr. Jen, that's in the house. Fat Joe, my boy Manny.
Thank you for having me. It's really been an honor, and I'm so humbled that you took, the time.
No, it's a pleasure. As a matter of fact, I knew this was going to be one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we brought food and snacks up here. We brought camping equipment because
Yes,
I knew this was going to be one of those, and I got to tell you, it's just a tip of the iceberg. Because I have a very good friend of mine, Maddie, who Dr. Jen got a chance to meet, and he's also an educator, and he's very involved, and he's very passionate, very data driven, and he's given us some parameters. And I'd love the next time I have you on this Rosenberg Radio, Maddie should be here.
3 o'clock. We'll do that at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, because
Yeah. Lunchtime, more like 12.
yeah, we're gonna need that. But I want to give Maria Ortiz a big shout out for taking the time out to be here on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. Dr.
Big
Jen, I salute you for being instrumental, for bringing such significant guests on the show. And we're just looking forward to bring you part of the good stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week with another classic guest, another classic movie. You will be able to see this lady back on the show. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, Squirrel Rosenberg TV. Stay tuned. 1.